perspective and an entrepreneur's perspective on the state of valuations and exits in India? What are the challenges? What are the, where it's at?
Yeah, it's been challenging on both respects. We do see the market changing a little bit. So the landscape is that there were a lot of funds raised in India in that 2007 vintage. And the majority of those funds, depends who you talk to, are hurting for exits right now. That in combination with a lot of this macroeconomic slowdown, Dr. Basu talked last night, GDP growth around 6.4%. We are seeing a lot of, as they call it in India, the promoters, the entrepreneurs, finally starting to indicate that they're better sellers of some assets. So we're seeing valuations start to come in line. The interesting thing is, if you read the Wall Street Journal or different publications, you'll see that India is selling pretty cheap right now. In fact, if you look at PE multiples, it's very cheap. But there's an interesting bifurcation. If you take a deep dive into these companies, and we've generally talked with the CEO of almost every public IT services companies out there, there's a huge bifurcation between companies with good corporate governance and professionally run versus the opposite, where 95% of the company is held in one promoter's hands. You're not quite sure of what the books are. There's two sets of books. Those types of companies are very cheap. So we still think as a firm, we're generally cautious, and we think the former is still fairly expensive. In terms of exits, it's been a problem historically. Fortunately, we only started our India effort in January, so we can benefit from that. But any investment we do in India is going to have certain investor rights and put options and things like that. But even those strategies haven't exactly worked. So in summary, it's been challenging, but we are seeing valuations starting to come in line. I don't know if anybody else from the company perspective has any thoughts on that.
It's always been a challenge with services acquisitions, right? It's always been a challenge with services acquisitions because services acquisitions are dependent on the people that you're acquiring, right? To some amount, the IP, but a big part of it is the people that you're acquiring as well as part of the acquisition, or as when you fund it, even when you're considering exits. The challenge has been, it ties back to that previous topic around attrition, right? That you buy something and everyone leaves, like within, your core people leave within the first 6 to 12 months, and the valuation and the value of what you just acquired just goes down. So services, we've, in all of my past roles, you've always struggled and eventually got to the point where mid-2005 decided you're going to not do any services acquisitions or investments in services, because even when companies have come to us and asked for captive setups,